What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Bill's here, and in this video we will be continuing our discussion on advanced platform types. So in the last video we discussed one-way platforms and how to add them to this moving platform right here, so we can jump through it, we can drop down through that platform. We also talked about how to add that functionality to our tile map, so we can jump up through here and we can fall down. And then we've also disabled ledge grabbing because, as we talked about, that's an inconsistent mechanic and we don't really want that in our game. In this video we are going to talk about two more platform types. We have our bouncing platform right here. So this is just like a little spring that launches our player up in the air. So in our platform types down here, let's create a new folder and we're going to call it moving platform. And we're just gonna take all three of these right here and paste it right there. And I had a typo in there, so let's go ahead and fix that. Perfect. And now we're gonna add a new folder there and call it bouncing platform. And then we're gonna create a new scene inside of that called bouncing platform. And this is going to inherit from area 2D. Perfect. So here we go. We've got our scene with absolutely nothing in it. Because this is an area 2D, we're going to want a collision shape 2D. And let's call it collider, like we usually do. We're also going to want a sprite 2D. Call it sprite. And then we're going to want an animation player. And we're going to call it animator, as we usually do. And we spelled it right. And then in our collider, just add an empty collision rectangle shape and then click local to scene. And let's save that scene, and perfect. There we go. So we already have the sprite for the scene. The sprite for this is part of our tile set, and it's not going to be like its own separate image. We're actually going to pull it from the tiles 16 by 16 image that we have. So if we come into our sprite, we're going to do a new atlas texture. So remember, atlas textures allow us to kind of like crop a region. So we don't want obviously all of this, we just want this spring animation down here. And so the way we do that is we just say, hey, we want to grab just a certain region of this image, and we're just going to grab that region right there. Perfect. So now we have those 6 images, and the nice thing about these textures is we can close it and we can still add animation. So we have 6 horizontal frames, and there we have it. So let's click on our sprite. Let's move our sprite up. Let's change the grid snap to be 1 pixel by 1 pixel, and then let's grab our collider and resize it, or move it, that works. And I'm going to make it 1 taller than the actual image. Perfect. Now let's go into our animation player, so our animator, and we're going to add 3 animations. So normal, which we're going to keyframe with just this first frame, and we're just going to loop it. So normal is just the normal animation. Next up, we're going to do launch. So this is when the spring actually launches. So let's keyframe this. Perfect. We're going to change the snap to 0.025. Okay, so there's the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, I think. We might have duplicated that. Yep, we did. Perfect. And then let's spread these out a little. We're going to have to play with these and whatnot, so then the next one would come at 0.25 seconds. Nice. And then we're going to add one more animation called recoil. And so recoil is going to be the spring resetting. So we launch, and we're going to do the one before the launch. And then we're going to go back up to the max, down, let's go, up one more, down, and then down, down. Perfect. And all that happens over the period of 0.175. That seems like a good time frame. So it'll kind of bounce and then reset. We might have to play with those more, but that's okay. Alrighty, so that should be all the animations we need. Next up, let's just attach a script to this. And let's drag in our nodes, and we got the sprite, we got the animator, we didn't get the collider. I don't know why, but for the life of me, it never ever grabs all the ones I want. Change that to a capital C, a capital S, and a capital A. Perfect. Now we're going to want an export category. So remember, export categories allow us to like name the properties we see down here. So like the sprite 2D, that's an export category. Node, or I think it's actually the offset, that's an export category. So for like this one, we're going to call it bounce properties. And then we're going to do an export variable. And we're going to call it export variable bounce amount to make it a float, and we're going to default it to 1.5. In our ready function, we're just going to play the normal animation. Process, we're not actually going to do anything in the process. What we are going to do is we're going to attach some signals. So we want body entered. So body entered will detect when a body, so like a static body, or in our case a character body, the player, and then we can detect that and then do code with that. Before we do that, however, though, we need to come back to our player script, and up at the top we need to say class name player controller. So we could just keep it as character body and see if our body right here is a character body, but you might use a character body for something else, like an enemy. And if you want enemies to launch, then awesome, you can launch them and you can change this code. But right now we're going to set it to be just like specific to the player. So we say if body is player controller, boom. And then if you want anything that steps on the spring to be launched, you just get rid of this line right here and then just use the rest of this code. So we say if animator dot current animation, yes, that is a typo, equals normal. So we want the spring to be like reset, and in its normal animator, we want the spring to be reset and like down so that we can actually launch the player. So we're going to do in this case, we're going to say animator, dot play. We're going to play the launch animation. And then we're going to say body dot velocity dot y equals body dot jump velocity. So remember, the player's variables are showing up here because this body is the player. Times bounce amount. Perfect. And so that'll launch the player. And then the next thing we need to do is attach some signals for animations finishing. So we're going to come in here and we're going to say if the animation name is equal to launch. So if the launch animation is finished, we want to play the recoil animation. And then if the animation name is equal to recoil, then we want to play the normal animation. So what we're essentially doing here is we're essentially using like the animation state as like a state machine, just depending on the animation that's being played and whatnot. Alrighty. if we come to our world, let's add a node 2D and call it bouncing platform. Let's move it up one because we want the player to be on top of everything. And then let's move in a bouncing platform scene. And let's set it. Let's nudge it over right there. Perfect. Alrighty. Now, this should work without any issues. Fingers crossed. We run over here. There's our spring. We jump on it. It launches us. And then it plays the animation. Okay, so that recoil animation and the launch animation, they both look a little fast. So let's go edit those real quick. Yeah, so this recoil looks a little fast. In all honesty, that's actually probably still too fast. So let's zoom out a little. That's not too long. Let's do 0.45. Okay, and let's go to the launch animation. Let's make this 0.45 as well. Let's do 0.375. Okay, there we go. That looks a little better. So yeah, you can just fine tune those timings as much as you want to make it so that the spring looks a little more smooth. I think it was a little smoother in like the demo project we had at the beginning. And already, there we have it, a bouncing platform that is fully functional. So with that, if you've liked this video, if you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful, go ahead and leave a like and a comment. If you're subscribed, then I'll see you in the next one. And if you're not yet subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and subscribe, especially if you've watched multiple of these videos. Around 70% of the people who watch these videos are not subscribed, and we are trying to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and you can always take it back later. So with that, I will see you in the next video where we talk about resetting platforms.